So as ever, shaping up to be a fascinating race, the Kipco 2000 Guineas. Lots of horses will be arriving in varying state of readiness, probably on the day, but also with varying amounts of experience at varied levels.
Very much so. The market is chock full of horses with potential rather than necessarily substance. I mean, the top end of the market I'm talking about, and there's guesswork as to who will be seen as best. Solid form is represented by the like of Trumpet Major. Solid form this year and last year. Ran well in the Dewhurst and ran really well in the Craven this year to win. A lot of the others, even Carolot to a degree. I know it's a Group 1 race, but it was only 5 runners, and it was a sort of steadiest time. It's on the style he did it, which was tremendous, as opposed to necessarily what he achieved, and that applies to Born to Sea and Top Offer as well.
Yes, let's take a look at Top Offer, shall we? He's the most inexperienced horse in the race. He has won once, a division of a Newbury maiden over 7 furlongs, and his trainer Roger Charlton took the decision not to risk him in the Aon Greenham because he didn't want him to have a tough race potentially on very soft ground so close to the target.
I can understand that. Whether he'll handle soft ground if it comes to it, we don't know. It was good ground this day, and everyone was impressed with the way he won. He showed a sharp turn of foot to go clear and won in the style of a really promising horse. The form itself is just average. I mean, it's just lots of the horses in behind, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, they've all been beaten since. So, there's some of them have run all right, but it's just an average form. It's sort of high 80s, early 90s type performance. So that tells you he's got to improve a ton. Now, he's obviously highly regarded. You can see there the potential is there. It's pure guesswork as to how far up the rung he'll go.
It is. And this race is so much about how forward is the horse at the right time and how experienced are they to deal with the conditions, and it is a question that you ask yourself about a horse only having a second start.
Completely. I mean, we know he handled a biggish field. We saw that. That I guess is okay. But the company is far richer. Conditions could be different. I mean, rain continues, and just inexperience. He's a one-race horse. It has been done before, and he might be a very good horse. But to win the Guineas, you've got to be a very good horse. At the moment, I think it's fair to say, unless you're really close to him and know, he's a very promising horse as opposed to a very good horse.
OK, well, let's have a look at Trumpet Major. He's a very different proposition in that we've already seen him this season, and from what we've seen, it appears like he's improved on what he could manage as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, I think this horse will continue to shorten before the Guineas. Certainly yesterday, I don't know if it still is, there was bibs and bobs of 10s around, but between 7s and 10s the price. I think this is the obvious horse to improve because it's this year. Last year's form, he was a good 2-year-old. He was a close 5th in the Dewhurst, but he has gone and done it this year at the track. He was giving weight all round. It probably wasn't the best Craven ever. I think we'll all would acknowledge that, but it was competitive enough, and he's won in really good style, giving £3 away to the field. I don't think you're going to get we won't see a more solid trial than this. He's been given a high rating by the handicapper. The likes of Timeform have got him top rated, and I think they're right in terms of what he's achieved the most. It's a mark which is bettered on by most Guineas winners. I think he will have to improve a bit again to win the Guineas, but you're talking about him having to probably improve, I don't know, £4 or £5 as opposed to some having to prove 20. So I just think he's the obvious one people will latch on to each way. Reminds me a bit of Dick Turpin in terms of, I know he didn't win the Guineas, but you know what I mean, always sort of slightly underrated, and no one really taking him seriously, and that, he was a really good horse in the end. And I think Trumpet Major proved in the Craven he's a very good horse. Whether he's quite Guineas material, I don't know. He hit a flat spot that day. I know that can be a bit of a worry in a big field, or if the ground did happen to quicken up, maybe he could get outpaced, but it's hard to see why he wouldn't be in the first 4, I think.
Do you think it will be quicker? I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because, I mean, it was faster ground when he ran 5th in the Dewhurst, and again, he hit a bit of a flat spot, got shuffled back, lost his position. He was probably a bit better than the bare form that day. It was on faster ground. He did seem to be more comfortable with the whole track. That could just be maturity. But do you think that he would be vulnerable if we did get a fast ground Guineas? I mean, not fast ground, it's clearly not going to be fast, but you know what I mean, it's sounder than that good to soft there.
I think anything which makes his propensity to be outpaced could be more important on a sounder surface. I mean, I think a slowish ground, that was sort of slow good ground that day, I think helps him get back into the race. That's all. I think a mile, I think he's probably going to stay a bit further than a mile in time.
Yes, he's got a powerful action, wasn't he? He was particularly strong at the finish. I think probably there's been enough rain, hasn't there, in the run up to it, that it's not going to be so fast as to inconvenience.
Yeah, I think we need a really dry week to blow it all away and whatever. We're not going to have water in, I wouldn't imagine. That's one good thing. And I would imagine the distance would be fine. I think he's the hardest. I can see why people don't necessarily think he'll win, if you know what I mean. I think there's a gut feeling he might not be quite good enough. He's what a lot of people think. But I think it'd be really wrong to underestimate. I do think his price will shorten up.
OK, let's take a look at the Prix Jebel, shall we? An interesting race to read. French 15 won it. Abtal was second and Ermival was third. How do you read this race?
My reading, probably wrong. French 15 comes on the outside. I thought he rather got first run on the Hamdan horse, the Abtal, who was sort of held up on the inside and didn't get out quite as quickly, and in the end quickened up and got quite close to him. Then 1-1, these two horses have met twice. French 15 comes with an uninterrupted run down the outside. Abtal, I thought, was just caught on the blind side slightly. I mean, he looked behind him, he got to the rail, and he runs on really well. They both run really well. They're two very good horses. French 15, I thought, just got the edge of it, and Abtal, I thought, without being knocked about, in his own way, ran every bit as good a trial. And last year, I'd say when they met, Abtal turned out the best. Slight preference for Abtal, but I think they're both pretty good horses.
Yes, so you suspect that Abtal this time around might make it 2-1.
It's my gut feeling. I may be wrong. You could easily argue the other way. Just impressions I formed at the time is that Abtal was ridden with given a sort of a trials run. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was the be-all and end-all. He was doing his best, but I didn't think it was the be-all and end-all that he won the trial. OK,
let's take a look at the Dewhurst, which so often is the major 2-year-old race, the major pointer towards the 2,000 guineas. It was won by Parish Hall, who ran against the stand-side rail. Second was Power, fourth Bronte, fifth Trumpet Major, and eighth Red Duke.
Well, your natural reaction when you see top races with so many horses on top of each other is to think it wasn't great. Evidence so far is that that's just not fair. You can argue it all different ways. Did Parish Hall get the run of the race? I think the argument is yes, but he will definitely stay further than this, and probably a stronger run race could even suit him more. Power I didn't think got the at the time. I thought Power might turn out the best horse. I didn't think he got the absolute run of things, and he finished the race off really well in the Tabor colours. Bronte, I think, didn't quite get home, and I think the run at Newbury suggests he's going to struggle over a stiff mile. Trumpet Major was slightly inconvenienced, and he ran on late. You could argue it lots of different ways. At the time, I thought Power, but I've watched the race loads of times since. I can certainly see the argument for Parish Hall, and I can see the argument for Trumpet Major. I think it's whoever's done best since then, really.
Yes, absolutely. I'm quite keen on Parish Hall in that I think that he's, if that race had been more strongly run, that he might have showed more authority over the rest of the field than he was able to in how the race was run. Extra furlong, I think, is definitely going to suit him. But I also like Power. He just seemed to hit a little bit of a flat spot, didn't he, in the dip, but then finished quite well. And I think that he's going to be a really bang miler this season. I
think so. His breeding suggests him. I think he hasn't got the Derby entries that most of Aidan O'Brien's, sort of like Camelot's got, and most of his horses have. So I think they see him as a miler maximum, and he's proven. They're both proven at the track. And they're both very good horses. They're both proven in Group 1 company. So again, I read an article the other day, and I think it might have been Tom Segal, and he was right. Someone anyway. If it wasn't Tom Segal, I apologise. Talking about how there's unexposed horses 6-1, and these two horses who are Group 1 horses 14-1, and you can't argue with that. I mean, they are. The market will look very different, I think, on 2,000 guineas a day. 2 or 3 of these horses are going to move when if there's a bit of confidence behind either of those, because we haven't seen them since. You can easily see them ending up 5-1 chances, easy. Where I think Top Offer won't finish any short. Well, I'm not saying he won't win, won't be any shorter than he is now. I can't believe people. The money's been on him, isn't it? At the big prices, he must drift from 6-1, surely.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that there is going to be plenty of movement particularly as we get to the 5-day stage, and we know exactly, which horses are definitely intending to turn up on the day. Let's take a look at the Greenham. It was won by Casper Netcher. Boomerang Bob was second, returning from a long break. Bronte third, seeing his stamina running out, and Rebellious Guest was well beaten. Did you, Casper Netcher, superbly tough horse, arguably unlucky not to win his Group 1 in the Middle Park. He's been to America, come back and proved that he's still a tough cookie by winning on his first run. I mean, there's so many things to like about this horse.
He's probably still underrated, even though he's done all those things. He is a really likable horse. It is easy to just to dismiss as being whatever, not quite good enough. My doubts I think the mile is unproven. I don't think it's a certainty that he'll like the mile. I think he's sure to run well. I do feel that even maybe a little bit more than Truckby Major, I think he might turn out just a few pounds shy. This form, I think, is really all the qualities you like about him. He tries hard, he battles, he's straightforward. All of that, I think he'll bring again. I think he's bound to run well. Is he quite a Guineas winner? I suspect he's probably not quite.
Okay. We have fencing to take a look at next for John Gosden. This horse was a winner at Newbury last season, but he ran against Camelot in the Racing Post Trophy, and on that day came up a little short.
That's the thing, and this day is impressive, and you can see why they ran him in the Racing Post Trophy. Again, he's a good-looking horse. He won very well, and clearly, he's obviously held in some regard because they ran him in the Racing Post. On that day, and we're not going to see Camelot, but on that day Camelot beat him very comfortably. I mean, he wasn't a very strongly run race, and Camelot only had the one run before, was held up behind him. Fencing got there earlier in a slowly run race, and Camelot, to be fair, mullered him that day, and it's hard to argue strongly that Fencing will beat him, even though I can see Fencing running. I think he's a good horse, but on that evidence, Camelot is better.
Okay, and finally we're going to take a look at Dragon Pulse, and this is his run when winning at Longchamp in April. He's been found out by Power during the course of his 2-year-old season.
Yeah, trained in Ireland last year, now trained in France, but turned over. Had lots of people got different opinions of Dabirasim in the purple colours. Is this showboating from Christophe Soumillon? Is he holding on to nothing? He certainly would misbehave at the beginning of the race. I don't know. You can take these races. You either love jockeys who do this or you don't. I'm always quite happy when they get beat. But having said that, the years were flat back. I don't think he would find him much. I did honestly have big doubts about him truly getting a mile, and I think he was holding on to nothing. But I still think you look a bit silly when you look 75 times and then get beat. The winner won well. I think he beat a non-stayer that day.
So there are the prices as Coral sees it currently. If you had to have a bet, have you had a bet in the race?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
And if I forced you to have one now, what would you do?
At those
prices?
A bet as opposed to a selection.
A bet and then a selection. That'd be quite interesting.
Well, they're different, to be fair.
And explain why they're different.
I think Power and Parish Hall are the horses who are shorten. I'd probably split stakes and back them. I think one of those will shorten up a lot. And again, you don't know about it. Just from vibes from the yard closest to the day. My selection is another complete dark horse. I just got a massive respect for the trainer, horses he brings over, which is rare. I think John Oakes is a great trainer, and I think Born to Sea is an interesting runner. I think your guesswork as to how good he is, but I think it is in the past he's pretty close to being right with the horses he puts in races. I suspect it will turn out a Group 1 horse. Whether he's good enough to win a Guineas, I don't know. But I think Sevens is far, is short enough. I wouldn't be rushing to back him in Sevens.
Half brother to See the Stars, always going to have that millstone around his neck, a bit like Noble Mission and Frankel. So what do you think about his performances so far? How do you compare them with See the Stars at this stage in their relative careers?
Probably two. There wouldn't be a lot. I mean, not a lot in it. They tried him in a listed race on his debut. I think that's because they'd run out of time, but he won it, which is a good performance. He then got beaten soft ground next time out by Nephrite, who'd already been beat this year. Excuses were found afterwards. The race itself is still probably a step up on his first win. It was still a fair performance, but you got this. You certainly get a strong impression from John Oakes that he didn't think that was his true run in that day. Don't know. He's bred not just through See the Star, but through Galileo and horses like that to be a better 3-year-old than 2-year-old. You'd be surprised if he isn't. I'm sure he's a good horse. I mean, it is. We started this talk by saying there is a massive amount of guesswork in the top end of the market. Camelot, Top Offer, him. I'm guessing. I just think he might turn out quite a good horse. I couldn't back it as Sevens. I don't think that's a good value. I think he just might be a good horse. But that is prejudice that the trainer knows what he's doing.
Okay. That is the kick
You answer the question as well. What about you?
What would I bet?
What would you back?
It's the same thing, actually. I have backed, the preliminary question, I have backed Parish Hall already. I would back Parish Hall at those prices, and I'd probably back him a bit shorter as well. I think he might win.
And so he'd be a selection.
He'd be a selection, yeah, bet and selection. Because I think the Dewhurst form is working out. I think it was a good race. I think it seemed not to be because they finished in a lump, and I think had it been a more strongly run race, he would have stamped his authority on it more, and I suspect that he'll improve again over a furlong further this season. Excellent. Those are our thoughts then for the Kipco 2000 Guineas, and you can see it live on Racing UK tomorrow week.